Okay, you're in your IELTS class and your teacher gives you this feedback. You need to extend your ideas more. You need to use a wider range of grammar when you speak. Today, we will look at how we can use one word to accomplish both of these things. Today, we're going to look at 3 ways you can use the word if to extend your ideas. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. Is this a conditionals lesson? First, second, third conditional? No. We're looking at how to practically use the word if, why we use it to improve that score. Now, to improve your IELTS score, you need to focus on 4 areas. You know these ones: fluency and coherence, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to use these techniques to improve at least 3 of those areas. Fluency and coherence, meaning how well you connect and develop your ideas. Grammar, in terms of the variety of sentence structures you use, and possibly even a little bit of your pronunciation score in terms of sentence stress. Let's take a look at method 1. Now, imagine you're at the final part of your test, the last 5 minutes. You're going to have a very open discussion with the examiner. And they might ask you a question that looks like this. Food is always better in an expensive restaurant than in a cheap restaurant. Do you agree? Will there be a greater choice of food available in shops in the future or less? Is it a good idea to learn a foreign language? These are all position-based questions. They want to know, what is your position? What is your opinion on this? Is it a yes or a no, or it depends? Now, this is one simple way to improve your score. Very often, as an IELTS examiner, I would hear "it depends." Now, that's important, but the important part, the really important part, comes after. You've said it depends, now you have to explain it. And that's the first place you can use the word if. So you've said it depends, now give one circumstance. If, explain the position. Then, but if, explain the other position. It might look like this. Let's take a look at my answer to the first question: is food always better in an expensive restaurant than in a cheap restaurant? My response might be, it depends. If the food is expensive because the restaurant has a famous chef, then the food would probably be better. But if the food is expensive because it's in a cool part of town or because they want to be seen as high quality, then it's probably not worth the money. So again, I've said it depends, and then I've explained if, but if. So I've now given an answer, I've extended the idea so I can improve my fluency and coherence score. I've used a wider range with if, and I've used it twice. So now I've got regular variety of sentence structures. Finally, and this is for pronunciation, I've added some sentence stress. If the food is expensive, but if the food is expensive. So I add a little bit of extra stress to those words. If, but. This is going to allow the examiner to think about giving you that higher score. You're using sentence stress, that's good for your pronunciation. You're using if, that's a wider range of grammar. And you're extending your ideas effectively, fluency and coherence. Now, keep in mind, yes, it is a simple technique, but it is important to practice it. On test day, it should be a habit. It shouldn't be some strategy you're trying to remember. So it is important to practice and ideally get feedback. And one of the things we do offer here at E2 is speaking tutorials and mini mock tests, which are an opportunity to get feedback from one of our E2 experts. Let's move on to method 2. Here are 3 more position-based questions. Should governments provide free healthy lunches to all elementary school and high school students? Yes, no, or maybe it depends. Should we teach young children how to cook in school? Again, yes, no, it depends. Or should governments invest in green technology? You get the idea. So again, we can use if and conditional sentences to extend the idea. Let's take a look at an example. All right, so in this case, I'm not going to say it depends. I'm going to give a clear, definitive answer. They definitely should. Now, I can immediately begin to extend by explaining why. If kids learn to eat healthily from a young age, they'll have better eating habits as they get older. So I've shown cause, learn to eat healthy, to effect, better eating habits as they get older. Again, simple idea, cause and effect, linked with that word if. And I can extend it again. If they have good eating habits, they'll perform better in school, and this will hopefully lead to more opportunities for them in the future. So we're not really focused even here on the grammar. We're simply talking about extending our ideas by talking about effect. That brings up your score. To bring up that grammar score, if is one tool you can use to show range. So here I'm using if to show cause and effect relationships. Let's move on to the third method. The third method is called the reversal, or the opposite effect. Again, all you have to do in this case is, after you've explained all of the effect from the previous answer, you can now show the opposite. So we talked about what happens if we teach kids to eat healthily when they're young. Now, let's talk about what happens if we don't teach them this. So, in my last answer, I finished off by saying this will hopefully lead to more opportunities for them in the future. And that would be pretty good. I could stop there, or I could add the opposite idea, and I could also use if for this. If they don't develop these habits, they may struggle with health and academic performance later in life. Now, of course, some of you might be thinking, is this a variety of sentences? You've used if 3 times, and you're right, you don't have to use if every time. There are many ways you could do this. If is one simple way to show it, and of course there are other ways. You might say, without these habits, they may struggle with health and academic performance later in life. Again, we're just looking at one word to kind of help you guys out. Now, remember, whenever you use that word if, there is an opportunity to add some stress to that word to show that you're developing the idea or possibly contrasting the previous idea. If we look at my last answer, you can see how that word if they don't develop these habits is contrasting the previous 2 sentences. So it's a beautiful opportunity to add a little bit of stress. If they don't develop these habits, they may struggle with health and academic performance later in life. A little bit of stress can make a big difference. So we've covered variety in grammar. Now let's talk briefly about accuracy. The grammatical structure that works the best here would probably be the first conditional. And you can see these sentences here. If kids learn to eat healthily from a young age, they'll have better eating habits as they get older. So if kids learn, present simple, they will have future. Another example would be to use second or a mixed conditional, and you can see the example here as well. If the food is expensive, then the food would probably be better, or if the food were expensive, the food probably would be better. Either of those would be acceptable. Yes, probably if the food were expensive is a little less common. If that is a habit you have, or if that is a feature of your English throughout the exam, that could bring up the overall score. But keep in mind, in the test, that one word there is not going to make a big difference by itself. Both of these would be fine. Thank you for sticking around with me. Here is your bonus method. This is for the really advanced users of English, and you'll understand why when you see it. So if you've learned something from the previous 3 methods, great, that's gonna help out. Let's take a look at the advanced technique. This method just involves a bit of a reflection at the end of what you've said. So take a look at this example here. Again, I said this will hopefully lead to more opportunities for children in the future. Now, I'm thinking about this, I'm reflecting on this a bit more personally, so I might add this. If kids in my generation had learned this, we would have grown up much healthier. So I'm not talking about the effect in the future. I'm not talking about a reversal of the situation. I'm kind of adding a reflection about how it was in the past and how it affects the future. Exactly, it's a more advanced technique. This technique is referred to commonly as the third conditional. So to take a more careful look at it, it looks like this. If kids in my generation had learned this, past perfect, we would have grown up much healthier. The form we would have grown up being the future conditional. Again, if you're familiar with this language, if you're already using it a little bit, this is going to help out a lot. You can really quickly start adding this kind of idea in. If this is a new grammatical structure to you, you don't have to worry about it as much. Again, this is that more advanced technique. Now, disclaimer, you don't want to use if in every single sentence in your speaking test. All of these techniques are great ways to extend your idea. It depends, cause and effect, reversal, or a past reflection that affects now. That's more what I want you to be focused on, because that's going to help you extend the idea. And training your brain to think that way can be done a little bit more quickly. But adding the grammatical structure, and more importantly, accurate grammatical structures, can take a bit more time. So keep in mind, focus on how you're extending your ideas, and then focus on the accuracy or range of the grammatical structures. But just really think about how we use the word if. We use it to show two different ideas. We use it to show cause and effect. And we can use it to reflect on situations in the past that have maybe had a negative impact today. But as I said before, an important aspect of this is getting feedback. So make sure that you're practicing, you're getting language coming in through reading and listening, and that you're getting feedback from an IELTS expert. And we do have opportunities for that here at E2 Test Prep. All right, everybody, I'm Mark. Thank you for listening. That was 3 ways to use the word if, although technically you got 4. I hope you found that helpful. Let us know how it helps you in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.